The public views us oftentimes in a negative light, but we've also given them every reason to.
Mm.
So if you don't like it, you got to change it.
You didn't grow up in death care. Like your family didn't own a funeral home. Like death
No,
care was not like on the radar.
no. And I didn't learn until later in life after I got into this that one of my great grandfather was one of the founding members of York Casket, which is now Matthews Casket. So I guess I can say that I had family in the funeral business.
That's wild, really. You didn't
Yep.
know that until you were
I
a
had
funeral
no
director.
idea. No idea.
It's like
Nope.
you grew up around trash, right?
Yes, trash and recycling. Yep. So
That's cool.
two
And
recession-proof industries.
very good point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, like, what were your interests as a kid? Like, what did you want to do?
I considered going to dental school. I don't know. I was always interested in the medical field, but I would say it was probably around the age of 13 after my great grandmother died that I
Mm.
became interested in funeral service. And there wasn't anything that happened at her funeral in particular that made me curious about the funeral industry. It was just a genuine curiosity. What happens when someone passes? What processes and procedures need to take place in order for a funeral to happen? So many individuals walk into a funeral home, they see a casket sitting there, they see these nice people at the door greeting them, and they have the funeral service and they go off to the cemetery. But there's so much, as other directors know, that goes on behind the scenes,
Yeah.
and I wanted to learn what does that look like. So I worked for a family business for 12 years, and that was sold back in 2019. I had no loyalty to staying with the new, I guess, corporation that bought the business, and I thought I'm going to pursue what I've always wanted to pursue, and that's being a funeral director. So at 30 years old, I went back to school, and I'm literally living out my dream right now, and it's the best feeling in the world.
What makes this? I mean, why would you say that? Living out your dream, like, tell me what that is. Because I mean, most young girls wouldn't say their dream was to be a
Right.
funeral director. So, like, explain that to
Um,
me.
so I don't like someone telling me what to do. I can do
Okay.
that myself. I am my own boss. But I love helping others, and I love being there for others. And this in this industry and working with families, it takes a lot of compassion, empathy, love. You need to love what you do, and you need to be passionate about this work. And I have a lot of that to give these families. There's no better feeling at the end of an arrangement than having someone just come up to you and say thank you, and thank you for being there for me. And so many of the friendships I have today are with families that we've served over the last couple
Mm.
years. In fact, um, back in, I think it was like 2020, my husband and I, we went out to eat one night, and we literally just sat down. And this is back when I used to work for someone. So I was on call 24/7, 365. And we had ordered drinks, and phone rang. And it was a death call over in Lancaster County, which was about 40 minutes from us. And I said, well, we got to go because this is what we've signed up for.
Yeah.
And so we ended up doing services for this woman, and later her husband and their son. His name's Scott. Scott and I keep in touch all the time. He will stop into the funeral home. We text, and that's how we met, was through the funeral home. But I'm really grateful for the community's support and everything that we're doing. It has been a real change in our community for a younger couple to take over this funeral home that existed for 100 years and was in the same family. They never did any marketing outside of Yellow Pages. And when we took over, I said, I don't know of anyone that gets a phone book anymore. Why are we going to spend $400 a month doing this? We need to do something different, but what do we do? And years and years ago, this funeral home that we purchased, they were doing upwards of 280 services a year. That was like back
Oh
in the
wow.
mid 90s. Yeah.
And when
And
you
just
guys took over, where was that? Where was it at?
when I was there working under the previous ownership, we would average around 100 services a year. I think during COVID, maybe 2021, we did 109 services. Um, Let me think of where I'm going with this. I'm losing my train of thought. So we purchased the funeral home in May of 23. When we purchased the funeral home in May, the previous owner had done 23 calls. First 5 months
Wow.
of the year. Yeah.
Wow.
And we ended 2023 with 81 calls. And I thought, oh my gosh, what did we get ourselves into? We just bought this funeral home. We are in an incredible amount of debt. Something needs to change like now. And that was when we reached out to you. And I think that approach was really unfamiliar to us. I've never been a camera person. I've never been, oh, take a selfie and post it on Facebook. Like that was never me. In fact, that's why Nathan and I, we had a small wedding because I said, I don't want to walk down the aisle in front of a bunch of people. I don't want people looking at me. I'm very, like, I'm a hermit. But yeah, so we started doing these videos and noticed things really started to change for us. 2024, we ended the year with 117 families served. This year, 2025, we're projected to serve 144. But it's not just the videos and the organic content we're doing on Facebook. It's a collaborative effort. We're doing mailers with our pre-need company. We are doing billboards. We're doing a ton of billboards. I would
Mhm.
say the billboards and the video and organic content that has helped us tremendously. You can do the $100 sponsorship uh, at the local high school, but and we have done some of those. We're big on supporting our
Yeah.
community,
Sure.
but this is where it's at.
It's funny. I remember that first call with you and Nathan. Like it was late in the evening for you. I think it was like 6, 7 o'clock at night when we did that call. And I remember going through your Facebook page and I'm like, hey, this Halloween post, like the you guys took a picture. It's like the only organic piece of content that's on your page. Look how well it did. And you said, yeah, look, it's just not who we are. Like I don't want to be in front of the camera. I don't want to really create video. I don't know if we could get to that point. We'll try it, but I don't think I'm gonna like it. And it was really cool because I think the first couple of videos we recorded, like you hated them. Like we edited them a couple of times. You didn't love them, and then but like the consistency of it, like that's the thing that like I want to go there with. It wasn't overnight. Like it wasn't like you created 5 pieces of content and put them out, and immediately there were thousands and thousands of views. Like you've consistently created content every single day, multiple pieces of video content a week, sometimes multiple pieces of video content um, in a day.
Yeah.
But that consistency, so like 18 months into that now, it's been a completely game changer, and we'll get to that, like where you're at now and like some of the things that you're experiencing. But like when you first started posting like video content, what was the response from your community after a few months of people seeing content?
I would say it took a good solid 6 months until we started getting consistent feedback, but the feedback is that people love it. And I think it has shown the public who we are, and they've come to know what my personality is like and what Nathan's personality is like and just who we are as individuals. And I noticed over time more and more people approaching us and just coming through the door at the funeral home. Even on Saturday, we had a funeral service. People came through the door and they were smiling. Hey, how are you? Because they know that they can do that with us. They know that we're approachable. They know that we're normal, everyday human beings. We are no longer hiding behind the closed doors of a funeral home saying, you need to figure it out for yourself as to what we do here. We are going to share with you and we are going to be transparent.
I love
But
it. I love the transparent, like, and you've been wildly transparent. Like if like I mean I say to my team all the time, like this is what happens when somebody just does it.
mhm.
I mean, we haven't treated your firm any differently than any other funeral home that's a client of ours. you've just done it. You've done the work. You spend time creating. It's been beneficial
Sure.
for you. But I want to talk about the value of a personal brand, and I think that's important simply because I mean, you buy an existing brand, but you've completely kind of flipped that on its head of what it was to what you and Nate and your culture and what you're trying to build and what you're trying to provide to your community. But like, what has happened with your personal brand? How do you feel that's impacted call volume, the way that your community responds to just you guys personally?
Well, Nathan is from Red Lion, which is where we're located. He has roots in Red Lion. His family has a business in Red Lion. I also, when I was in sales for my family's waste company, my territory was Southern York County. So I see a lot of familiar faces that come through the doors of our funeral home. But I would say one thing that we have done is we're constantly, I don't mean for this to come out the wrong way, we're always in your face. You're going to
Hmm.
drive home on your way home from work and you're going to see one of our billboards, and then you're going to sit on your sofa while dinner's cooking, scrolling on Facebook, and you're going to see a video. You're going to uh, I don't know, go to your mailbox and you can see one of our pre-need mailers. We are always pushing Wagner-Elfner and Berg. I go to the gym. I'm always wearing a shirt. We are out there constantly promoting, and with us building our new funeral home, we're really getting a lot of feedback from the public on what this building should look like. Help me with tile, help me with wallpaper selection. So we are getting the input from the community because really this is a space for them. And so we are constantly engaging with individuals. And obviously, the more they engage with our content, the more our content pops up in
Hmm.
their feed and they see us. But
You know, I
yeah.
I remember listening to an interview with like I was a CMO for Cadillac, and he was talking about how he's like how marketing works, and he's like somebody sees one of our commercials and they're like, oh, that's cool, and then they drive home from work, they see one of our billboards and like, they go
Mhm.
online, they start looking at an Escalade, and then later that night they're scrolling through Facebook and they see an ad for that same Escalade, and they're like, "Hey, babe, like this is meant to be. This is a God thing. Like I've seen this Cadillac
Yeah.
everywhere." But that's really how marketing works, and it's funny because we get put in this box of just social media, and that we're the social media company, and that's really it. From like we have branded ourselves that way because social is the lowest hanging fruit. I think it's where you can grab the most attention the fastest. And for a funeral home, like funeral homes don't have huge marketing budgets, and so we're grabbing a sliver of that. Where can we show the biggest return the fastest?
Mhm.
And then but billboards and creative, like I actually like traditional media more than I like social media. Like I enjoy really good traditional creative, and I think that traditional media is insanely valuable if the creative is good. So tell me
Yes.
how, like, you've said billboards a couple of times. Like you guys run a lot of billboards. Let's
Yes.
talk about your billboards. Like what's worked, what hasn't worked. Like
Right.
why are you doing billboards the way you're doing them? What does that look like?
So let me just back up for a minute. Our accounting firm has shared with us that funeral homes typically only spend about 3% of their annual gross revenue on marketing. Last
No.
year we spent 10%, and it was probably the best money that we have ever spent since we've owned the funeral home. You need to spend money to make money, and I think funeral directors will often uh, they're cheap. They don't want to spend money and they don't want to market. And you got to break away from that if you want to grow your business. You have to do something different. We know what the definition of insanity is. It's doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. As far as our billboards, there are other funeral homes in our area that do their funeral home marketing. Uh, and I have heard feedback from the community. People will tell us yours is definitely different than theirs. It's not, I don't want to say loud, but the colors that we use and the artwork that we're putting on these boards is important. I pay attention to billboards now more than I have ever, And one thing I think you shared with me early on when you started helping us with this is you need to be able to read a billboard in 7 seconds or less when you're driving by. I will drive by some other billboards and there's just so much stuff on the billboard. It's like, what am I even supposed to focus on? But what we're putting on these billboards is it's a picture because it's always nice to know who you're talking to when you call into the funeral home, whether it's a picture of, myself, my husband, or Chad, our new funeral director. We've started putting him on boards, but some of them
I'm
are,
sorry, that one's one of my favorite though. By the way, like we're gonna show a picture of it. Like we'll edit in like some of these billboards as you're talking. But
yes,
like, dude, I love that.
it is
I
great.
love Chad's billboard.
It's great. When I sent you the picture of him and Josh sent that back, I sent it to Chad. I said, "Are you sitting down right now? You're gonna die." So, but he loved it. But it has been a conversation starter. We'll have families come in saying, "Oh, so you're the big bass catcher, or you like gardening? I love to garden. Well, what are you working on now, or whatever."
Yeah.
But it's different, and again, there's just been so much mystery in our industry that when you think of a funeral director, you just think of a person standing there in a black suit, smug look, but there's so much more to us. And
Mhm.
I think our community needs to see that. So that's what we're doing, and it's working.
I love that more than anything that you've said, and here's why. Because like I love data. You and I spent before we started recording, we're talking about data, we're breaking down videos. Like I spent a lot of time in the weeds and understanding numbers and why people do what they do. And when I think of like what we know is 80% of death care is relationship driven. So 80% of the reason a family will choose a funeral home is based off of some sort of connection, some sort of relationship. The other 20% is proximity to that funeral home. So if someone's in proximity to your funeral home and they have a relationship with you, there's a 90% chance they don't navigate outside of that funnel when they're picking a funeral home. So, like what we've tried to do with your billboards, some of your billboards have Sam and your kids on them. Others are you and Nate. Others are your entire family. There's always a picture. So, like you mentioned that, like there's that relationship. But then there's usually like a one-liner that's just catchy that goes along with it because it's quick, it's memorable. I think one of the most interesting things, and I've never seen another funeral home billboard that doesn't have a phone number on it. We don't have address. We don't have email address. We don't have a website. We don't have serving this community for 97 years and 10 generations and all
Yeah.
the things that like most traditional funeral home billboards have on them simply because the consumer doesn't have time to remember it all. All you
Yep.
need is like the connection to the brand, and if
Hmm.
they can remember it, they can connect with it. But like Chad's billboard, and we showed a picture of it, but like it's got three like quick little facts about Chad. Like if we sat here and we went through your life story, then we went through my life story, the audience is going to go, man, I align with these three things with each of them. And like they're going to be much more deeply connected to us
Hmm.
simply because they know more about us. How do you
Yep.
do that in marketing? Like it's like no one's going to sit and listen through our whole stories, but like when we can go gardener, bass catcher, like different things like that on a billboard, people can immediately connect with those things and be like, yeah, that's my funeral director. Like that's I like those things too. So there's a much deeper like psychology around your marketing than just what's going to grab attention. And you would text me, I don't know, months ago, you were going into the hospital and dropped sushi or something like that, and like you were
Yeah. My
smuggling
sister
sushi in the
had
hospital.
had her baby.
And
Yep.
tell me that story because to me, like as a marketer, like that's the win for me. That's the ultimate win of like a story like that. Like why we do what we do.
Yeah. There was so my sister had my nephew and of course couldn't wait to eat sushi. So I was like, well, I'll smuggle some sushi into the hospital for you. So I'm standing there at patient registration trying to shove this sushi in my big purse. And this lady's standing behind me and she said, are you the funeral director? And I said, I am. And she said, well, I follow you on social media and just, I love your content. And of course, I gave her a big hug because I'm a very kinesthetic, touchy feely person and I'm a
Mhm.
hugger. So I give her a hug. And she said, well, we're coming in to visit my husband's mom and she's not doing well. And basically just said, hey, when something happens to her, we want to use you. But it was that connection there. I had no clue who this person was, but she felt like she knew me well enough to start up a conversation and engage with me because she knew who I was from social media and wanted us to, or wants us to care for her mother-in-law when that time does come. So yeah,
It it's
we're
yeah.
there's not a day, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this. I'm home all day today, so I won't get out into the public, but there is not a day that goes by that we are not approached at least two or three times by someone. Nate and I were walking into the grocery store the other day, and we're leaving, and a woman, I think, and her daughter were coming in, and the daughter said, "I watch your stuff. I cannot wait to see your new location." Just it's amazing what this has done for us. It's it's pretty incredible. But as far as these videos, I was unsure about it at first, but you need to remain consistent with it.
Yeah.
And then you eventually get into this groove where you see every opportunity as an opportunity for content.
Yeah. That's so
Yeah.
good. Tell me about
Yep.
that. Okay, go. You break that down. I do it all the time.
So we have our guinea pig buried in our backyard. And the other day, I'm picking up dog poop and I'm walking around and we have a plaque. Like we had an all out funeral for this guinea pig, but I pull my camera out and I start taking a video and I talk about, children and funerals and how death can affect kids. And it's important to talk about the life of the individual and to celebrate them and to involve children in funeral service. And of course, my husband's like looking out the window thinking, what are you doing? But again, it was an opportunity for good content, and it's usually the stuff that I don't have planned and it's just kind of on a whim that ends up being some of these best pieces that have been out on social media. But yeah, get yourself a tripod and you'll get comfortable. You get comfortable with it. You
You
really
will.
do. Yep.
You will get comfortable. It's consistency. It's like I say all the time, like if I walked into an embalming room and you're like, okay, here, embalm this body, I'm gonna be absolutely terrible. But if I do it 100 times, I'm gonna get better. And content is the
Yep.
exact same way.
Yes.
So let's talk about content and video content. Like you've been creating a lot of content and it started with just like kind of talking head answering questions and it's morphed now into you actually, I want to say this with the most, like you go against the grain, you go against anything that every educator in this profession has ever said, like don't go into the prep room with the camera and don't talk about this and don't talk about that. And it's like those are the most, like you're not showing any bodies or anything like that. Just gonna preface
Right.
that. But like you've gone into the prep room and you've created content around embalming fluid. You've created content around the embalming table, tools that you use, and the embalming machine. What is feedback then from the community and comments that have come around that. I want to stay right there for a second, and then we'll go into like some of the success of some of these videos. But like, just
Yeah.
what's some of the feedback on that type of content?
So you and I started doing videos where you would ask me questions and I would answer. And then when I started doing some of this on my own, I thought, all right, I want to take my camera into the prep room. And I know that this is something, we've been told that we shouldn't do it. I've seen other people do it. Let me give this a shot and see what happens. And I noticed right away that that content is what took off.
Mhm.
Now, granted, the videos that you and I uh, did together were doing questions and answers. People listen to those and they watch those, but people want to know what happens behind the closed doors of a funeral home. And it's because we've been quiet for so long. And I'm noticing more and more uh, we've really built a community on Facebook and people are sharing stories and talking about their experiences with death and asking these really great
Mhm.
questions. Um, but I think so many people have been afraid to talk because it was one of those taboo topics. You don't talk about death and dying. We don't talk about what happens behind the closed doors of a funeral home. And what we've done has allowed and given people the freedom to start talking about it.
Yeah.
But I am very cautious about what I do. I'm sure there's people out there that think she must have some really weird pictures on her phone before I ever hit record on my camera. I have my camera positioned in a way you will never see a decedent on my phone. I'm very cautious about how I do things. I mean, I'm constantly looking like in the cabinet. Can you see a reflection of anyone? You just have to cross all your T's and dot all your I's. And when I'm working on someone in a casket, my phone is propped up down on the floor. But this is the content that people really seem to enjoy, and we
Yeah.
do it in a very ethical and compassionate way. And I think a lot of your approach, it plays a big role in your content and the response you're going to get.
My, you're. I'll say you're very cautious about it. Like it was big conversations. I remember back and forth. Like, how would I shoot this? How can we do it in the most appropriate way? Like it wasn't
Yep.
like you just set up a phone and just went to town. So like I applaud you for that, and because you've people are curious, and
Mhm.
forever we've said, like when I got into this space it was like nobody wants to talk about death, no one wants to talk about death, which to me seems to be the furthest from the truth, because anytime someone figures out or finds out what I do, that's all they want to talk about. There's
Mhm.
so many
Yep.
questions, and so you've been able to peel back the curtain on like this mysterious, like there's a curiosity with the consumer, and when you start to go down that route, like I was reading through comments on like the first video that you did in the prep room where you walked through like what happens in an embalming
Mhm.
and in that process, and some lady had commented like, I was scared of embalming prior to this and wanted cremation, but now that see like
Mhm.
you talking about it, like I think I want to get buried. And like to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what every funeral director wants. And I'm like, how many families are choosing options based on just lack of knowledge? And we've
Yes.
done a really, really bad job in death care because we stand behind this curtain of, dare I say it, dignity, and like that's not dignified. We can't do that, when no one really knows what the frick dignity means or dignified means, and it's just a word it's a word we use to make excuses for not educating properly, in my opinion. So like, what's that feedback been? Like, how much hate have you got from the consumer because you're educating them more?
Um, well, surprisingly, I haven't received much hate from consumers. It's been more from funeral directors. And just going to be really upfront here. The older funeral directors are the ones that are calling into our funeral home, emailing me, messaging me, and commenting on Facebook saying, "Thank you for finally talking about this. Our industry is where it is right now with direct cremation because we should have done this a long time ago." I had a gentleman reach out to me probably about 3 weeks ago. I think I want to say he was like 85 years old, owns several funeral homes in the Philadelphia area, nicest man. And you would think that it's some of the older directors that we might be getting criticism from, but the criticism is coming from the younger directors. And as far as the consumer in general, we're getting a lot of praise for what we're talking about. I actually had a guy comment on a video, I think it was over the weekend, and he said, because of your videos, now they're out in San Diego, but because of your videos, my wife and I have made the decision to pre-arrange. They had met with the individual. Their next step was to go to the cemetery, and he was asking for my opinion. Should we take our son along with us? And I said to Nathan, it like almost brought tears to my eyes. I said, I don't care that it's not with our funeral home. I am just so
Mhm.
glad that people are finally seeing the value in pre-arranging, and they're listening and taking this seriously, because none of us are making it out alive. But it's having an impact, and getting feedback like this, that I think, you know what, you get a negative comment here and there, but the negativity, it's not such a bad thing, because those people are engaging with your content, and again, it's just
Mhm.
only going to continue seeing it.
It's so exciting for me selfishly, and I'm just gonna say that. Like it's selfishly exciting for me because I've said from like day one with our team, they're like, why do we keep it's frustrating. Like I'm complete transparent. Like every day I want to bang my head against the wall. Like I do. Like working with funeral directors is frustrating because I'm like, it doesn't have to be this hard. If a funeral home
Right.
wants to do marketing correctly, like this is the blueprint of how to do it. Document everything, talk about everything.
Yep.
Billboards that are fun, creative, direct mail campaigns, newspaper ads that are fun, creative, that are memorable. because at the end of the day, my personal belief is that if every single funeral home marketed this way, the consumer perception of this profession would be massively different. Massively
Hmm.
different. And you're proof of that. The fact that you're all the way on the East Coast and you have a funeral home all the way on the West Coast, it brings tears to your eyes that you're making a difference. It brings tears to my eyes that that funeral director doesn't feel like there's someone locally that he can have that conversation with. How crazy would it be to have to call somebody 3 hours away, or a different time zone? I say 3 hours because of the time zone, but on the complete other side of the country, and ask questions because that's the only funeral director that's educating you properly. Like, that's crazy. Like, kudos to you, but also I'm like, that's the problem with death care, is that like we our lack of self-confidence or whatnot, we stand behind dignity. And like,
Yeah.
there's plenty of funeral directors going, what Catherine's doing is crazy. Like, I would never create it. I would never do that.
Yeah.
I would never. There's plenty of embalming fluid companies where you're educating on their embalming fluid and their tools, and they're going, I would never take a camera in an embalming room. Like, that's the thing
Right. Yeah.
that frustrates me every single day. So I want to talk about now, like, the consistency of creating content, how your content's evolved. You had your first piece of content go like crazy, crazy viral, with over 1 million
Yeah.
views. So let's talk about that.
I, of course, had been working with you for a period of time, and we still work together and have a great partnership. But I started recording my own content and started posting, and I'd kind of play with the posting times, and I'd get posts scheduled ahead of time. And I had this one post scheduled, and I think I had done it about 2 weeks in advance. And I'm like, all right, 8:29 in the morning, because I don't know, it just seemed like a good time to post. So it was I think it was, maybe, I don't know, you might need to remind me if it was a
25
30
seconds.
second video or if it was 25 seconds. And there was a casket in the video, and we had our overhead lift, and I'm just, of course, standing on my tippy toes because I'm 5'1", and trying to move this lift across the room. And this video posted, and I was so excited. I was texting you that night. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're up to 100,000 views. This is amazing. And then I think right at the 1 week mark, we hit 1 million views. And people were seeing that video, which was then driving them to go to our page. And then they're starting to view the other videos. And right when I posted that video, or right when it posted that morning, we had just hit 2,000 followers, and our following has continued to grow over the last month. I think this morning, actually, my husband and I went to bed last night, and we were at 30,000 followers, and I woke up this morning, we had gained 2,000
Yeah.
followers overnight. So I'm finding that having a casket in the video is important. People want to learn about these caskets, and keeping the videos short, adding some catchy music. But in that um, in that video, of course, people had made comments about me being short. So I think at like the 1 week mark, after we had hit 1 million views, I took a picture of me standing on a step stool. And then that's when I thanked, hey, you're new here. Thanks for following us. Um, but just kind of making light of that video. We never expected that. That was totally unexpected, and has brought us a lot of
Mhm.
attention. Again, you're always going to get some negative feedback, but I would say 95% of it is positive, and what it's done for our funeral home has been pretty
So I
incredible.
want to give you some data because we haven't sent your analytic report for the month. So I'm gonna in real time read some data. In the month of April so far, you've posted 94 pieces of content. 56 of those have been video. You've gained, you've had 8,971,000 organic impressions on your content, which has generated 24,000 new followers, um, 5,276 clicks over to your website. 4,400 of those have been organic. We are running some paid against some of those views.
Mhm.
Um, I
Yeah.
won't get into your pre-need numbers. We've talked about that, but like a dramatic increase in pre-need leads, conversations. But I think what
Yes.
the really cool thing is, like, if I look at where you're getting the most engagement from, it's Red Lion. So like even though you've gotten 8 million organic views, the top two cities where you're getting the most engagement are Red Lion, where the funeral home's at, in York, which is neighboring you, where you have the biggest opportunity to pick up new
Mhm.
call volume. So like someone will go, oh, 8 million views, that doesn't really matter. Yeah, the majority of those millions of views are happening outside of your community, other than the fact that you're hitting every other person in your community because you don't have a million people that live in your community. So, yes, the
Right.
virability is great, but you're hitting that core audience, which is dramatically increased your pre-need and your conversation. So, like, the value of content, it would have been easy at the 12-month mark to go, hey, we've grown the funeral home a little bit. Like, that's great. But, like, nothing's really going bonkers. We're getting a couple thousand views on content and just bail out. But the consistency of creating, the consistency of just creative marketing in general, outside of just what you're doing on social, all those things play a part to where now it's like you're somewhat of a local celebrity. I mean, I think that's easy to say. You're getting millions of views on content every single month, um, and you're serving more families because of it.
Mhm.
Like, that's crazy. That's crazy. Off of just the consistency of creating the right content.
Yes. And I just want to back up and say you had made a comment that we made 90 some posts
Yeah,
in the last month. I got a funny comment in a Facebook group. Actually, I wasn't allowed in the group. They did not allow me to join, but someone screenshotted comments to me. And one director made a comment that I must never get out and all I do is record all day. Uh, Once you get the hang of
yeah,
it, you can make a video in 5 minutes
yeah,
or less. It is so easy. Again, it's consistency, but I do everything at our funeral
yeah.
home, including our content.
It's so cool. It's cool. And like it's been a fun
Yeah.
ride for our team because it's like we can throw out an idea, you're gonna go do it. I mean, we're supporting with some other content like the billboard designs and things of that nature as well, which has
Mm.
been absolutely a
Yeah.
blast. I to me it's like when we started this company with every funeral home, with you and Nate, the first call we had, I'm like, this is a partnership. Like we want to be ingrained in like the success of the funeral home. Like we want to be here as a
Mhm.
resource. We want to be here to bounce ideas off of. And it's really cool because you leverage that, you use that. We have a lot of conversation. It might be a quick text message on a Saturday morning, and maybe through the week. It's like it's not like we're on the phone strategizing about every single video or something that you do. Like you guys have taken the reins and you run with this, but you've gotten in the habit and the routine of just documenting everything. And there's a lot that you document that never sees the light of day, but then there's certain things that it makes sense. And like that's the piece, like to me, that's the piece of the puzzle. And it's not, I say to me, but it's like it's not to me. The data supports that, like that's the secret sauce of what the consumer wants to see. Like you've
Mhm.
brought down this massive wall. And I always fall back on a consumer survey that was done. Funeral Service Foundation commissioned it like 2013. And it said like 80% of consumers, when they hear the word funeral home or funeral director, think of something negative. And I would say that probably hasn't changed in the last 12 years. Like that's probably still
Yep.
very accurate. That is a massive, massive wall that you're up against before you ever even do anything. Just because you are a funeral home, 80% of people are going to think
Yep.
of something negative. And you've absolutely gone, okay, we're going to change the narrative around our funeral home. And that's what you've
Yep.
done. And that's powerful. Like that speaks volumes in the fact that in less than 24 months of owning a funeral home, you've almost tripled call volume. Yeah, so no one can say that it doesn't work.
Yeah. And I think from here, once we get into our new location, it'll only continue to grow.
For
But
sure.
yeah, all good
Well,
things.
it's exciting.
So
I appreciate you talking
yeah.
about it, being transparent. I want to encourage you because I've been on your side of kind of being a trailblazer with content and hate. The consumer is going to love you. The profession is not going to love you in certain aspects. And so like put those blinders on and know who you are, know who you're not, stay authentic, to what maps to you and your family and your brand. And I say family because it's like you do such a great job in your content encapsulating your family and that it is a family business, from your husband to your kids to little Max running around on a desk on a Saturday morning while you do paperwork. Like you document that. Like
Yeah.
it's part of the
Yeah.
process. It's like it's who you guys are, and that's super cool. And I applaud what you've done and what you're building and
Mhm.
what you'll continue to do, and your way of thinking about it differently. Um, and I think that that's what the difference maker is.
Mhm.
Like you weren't
Definitely.
like I want to say that like you weren't this like superstar content creator prior to creating content. Like you didn't have this past life where you were like an actor and really comfortable on video. It's like you literally started
No,
from
not at
scratch
all.
like everybody else. So it's
No.
powerful.
No, someone had said to me the other day, they said, "Well, I watch another influencer." And I said, "Well, I'm not an influencer. I'm a funeral director. I'm a mom. I never did this for fame or anything. I do it because I genuinely want to educate and you know, just get out and show the individuals in the community who we are. And yeah, like you said, there's just the public the public views us
Yeah.
oftentimes in a negative light, but we've also given them every reason to.
Mm.
So if you don't like it, you got to change it.